Hi, YouTube. Hi. Hello. Long time no see. Mm. So, I think what I'm gonna do today is I really want to give you some updates, and I also did a reel a couple days ago asking about if you wanted me to tell you a little bit more about choir and kind of my interaction with it. So I think we're gonna do three things today. I'm gonna give you two new updates, and then I'm also going to tell you a little bit more about kind of my choir language experience. Hopefully this kind of serves as a relaxing little video for you to kind of learn a little bit more about me, a little bit about my story, and then also to get those updates. So if you don't know, I have a little bit more of a platform on Instagram, and I've gotten up to like 330-ish thousand people. Thank you so much if you're coming from Instagram to YouTube. Thank you. You're so welcome here. The two updates that I wanted to remember that I've been putting over there a little more, but that I wanted to include here are one, I am going to be hosting a 3-day online course for people who particularly speak Portuguese. The classes will be in Portuguese, but if you speak Spanish and you understand Portuguese or whatever, you're welcome to participate. I'll go ahead and add all my links and things down below so you can check those out if you want to, but it'll be really cool. I'll be talking about learning English and kind of language learning tips and tricks and things, and I really hope that that's beneficial for people. And then my other one was actually this really awesome opportunity that Trova Trip has provided me, and they basically want me to connect with a bunch of people and gave us an opportunity to travel together. So if you want to go ahead, if you want to be on a trip with me, if you want to eat really good food and practice your English or just speak in English and travel a little bit with me, and kind of we get to kind of form our own little nerdy group together that loves language and travel and making connections and all that stuff. Everyone is welcome. So if you want to go ahead and participate in that, go ahead and check out the survey down below, because you will be telling me when is best for you and where you want to go and like what we're gonna do. So if you fill out that survey down below, you'll get all that stuff kind of and the updates with it. So yeah, I hope to see you at either one of those activities. I'm so grateful for the opportunities that I have kind of been able to work up to with my platforms. So thank you so much. And now I guess let's jump into the choir discussion. So basically with choir, what I mentioned in my reel was that we kind of are able to sing in multiple different languages. I've been in some sort of a choir from like age 3 till maybe 18. And I was in little church choirs. I was in middle school choir, elementary school choir, high school choir, all the things. And then I was also a big theater nerd. So that was kind of later on, I guess. And I think one of the most interesting things about singing in different languages, because that's basically what we did. We sang in English, but we also sang in Yiddish and Hebrew and Spanish and French and Latin and German. And what else did we sing in? There are a bunch of others basically that we had to learn how to sing in a group, even if we didn't speak that language. So if we were able to kind of break those sounds down into pieces, we were able to really understand how to make that sound, even if we didn't understand what the words meant. And usually there was a little English thing down below. Please pardon if you hear any trucks or cars going by. I live on a street that has some more movement. Hopefully it's a little quieter with my microphone, but if you hear it, terribly sorry. But yeah, so basically we were able to do songs like Kyrie eleison is this random Latin song that I still kind of remember, and it was in Latin, and we had to kind of just break down those sounds. And I think when I started learning Spanish, I learned, kind of started with Spanish when I was like 11 or 12. I was in 7th grade in middle school, prime time in life. And I started taking Spanish because I thought it was a really beautiful language. And my sister had actually come home teaching me some really simple words in Spanish. They were kind of like numbers and thank you and please, but I always thought it was really beautiful. And I had traveled a little bit when I was younger with my family, and I'd known that kind of I wanted to learn a different language. I just didn't know which one. So when Spanish came up, I knew that it would be a really awesome opportunity because so many people in my area spoke Spanish, and I felt that it would be a very beneficial thing to do, but also just because like I'd sung in Spanish before and I thought that it was such a beautiful language. It had so many different sounds from English, and yet there were still some words and some phrases that I think were quite similar. So I'm gonna grab some coffee. If you don't have a drink, or if you didn't get water, you should totally get some so we can have water together, or coffee, I guess. And basically I started speaking Spanish, and I had lots of different exercises, and we had to understand all these different verb tenses and conjugations, and there were all these extra steps to Spanish that were quite a bit different than English, in particular with our subject verb agreement, right? Because in English we have like I go, you go, he goes, she goes, it goes, and then we go, they go, you all go. So it's like go, 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 go with goes. But in Spanish, right, you have like yo voy, tú vas, él va, ella va, nosotros vamos, ellos van, vosotros vais, right? If you want to do vosotros, which I learned a little bit later on, like it was a completely different thing for me. And so basically I was using the idea of learning a language. I treated it like it was music in one of my choir classes. So I would just kind of break down the sounds, and I understood I could always curl my R like you know, I could always do that, which was very lucky because I was able to just kind of plug that in. So as I continued to learn Spanish and I continued to sing in interesting languages, and I started to realize that like language is music, particularly when we're looking at like intonation and personality. I have some coffee. Like, I think that so many people, when you, even if you don't know a language, like some people can kind of identify what you're speaking based on these kind of accepted sounds in a way. Like my husband Diogo, he always is like, when we started dating and he started hearing my English, he was like, no, Americans all sound like rah, rah, rah. And I said like, no, what are you talking about? Like, we don't sound like that. And this was 6 years ago, I think, 7 years ago. And now from all of my teaching in particular, I've realized, oh crap, it's true. Like we have that sound, and the intonations of questions and answers. And I think one of my favorite examples is like anybody that doesn't, like nobody in the US, nobody, no, that's a strong word. Very few people, I would say, speak fluent Italian. But we all know that da na 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 da 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 da, you know? And that's an assumption, right? But it's a very different sound than we have in English. And I later noticed it in Galician a little bit, which I don't speak, but I understand. Because I lived in Galicia for a year, and all of my students spoke Galician. And so I started to hear their intonation. And then I started learning other languages, not other languages, just other accents within Spanish. And I've always known different accents in English, and like just all of these things basically coming together is the idea that language is music and music is language, because it's just the use of our voice and our mouth to communicate something. Like it's such a fascinating concept to me that I think in particular the piece about choir that really brought me in was we got to learn these melodies and these accents and these beautiful connections to cultures that I wouldn't have really gotten otherwise, and you feel them when you sing them. Like when we sang the song in Yiddish, I can't even remember what the song was, but like the sound and the melody was kind of haunting in a beautiful way. And it was the same we sang. I loved singing songs from kind of more of an Irish music background. Danny Boy or Bonnywood Green. Oh, Bonnywood Green. I love that song so much. I was in an all-girls choir and we sang this song and it was so beautiful and haunting and sad. And the melody told such a story, you know, like I'll have to find it someday. I think I still have the recording of my women's choir. And it was just incredible. And so basically, what I find is that, like, oh my gosh, you guys, I'm just trying to talk, you know, like connect. And sometimes I kind of want to connect lots of ideas and then I get distracted by something around me. But okay, focus. So basically the melodies and the tunes and everything, they all tell their own story. And so as I got older and as I learned and talked to, interacted with more people that just spoke Spanish, but how vastly their accents sounded, and I was still able to connect with them, I think that accents themselves tell their own stories. They tell you about maybe not the origin of the language, but the origin of their way of communicating. So when we look at Bonnywood Green, the song, it was told by a young Irish woman to her man who was going to war, and you could hear the little pieces and the phrases and the ways that they sounded differently from me. And even though it was an Irish song, it was in English, but it connected differently to me than maybe an American English style, because accents and pronunciations and melodies and intonations and like all of these things that we do with our voice, and even if we do with instruments, right, they're all a little bit different, and they're all just so enchanting to me. And so as I heard more and learned more and connected more, I started to see that there's no right or wrong accent. There's no right or wrong kind of way of speaking or way of writing music. It just depends on who you are and your background and your story that you want to tell. That is something that I think growing up as someone from the US, because I realize that an American, right, we have North America, Central America, South America. We've kind of occupied that phrase, American. And it's in my vocabulary, I think, in English, which is funny because in Spanish we have estadounidense. And I like that more because it's like I'm a United Statesian. And it helps me to kind of identify that, because if I say someone from the US, right, I'll try to do that more often. But as someone who grew up in the Midwest in particular, I heard people from different places. We had Mexican American folks. We had I had a couple people that I knew from Paraguay as well, but that lived in the US. Their families were from various places. I had friends and things from different countries and different cultures, but we all kind of sounded the same. And I think in the Midwest in particular, we see a lot of that kind of trying to sound more homogenous, I would say, at least within my bubble, right, within my world. I didn't get to hear as many things, and we kind of learned this is the standard. This is what makes you sound intelligent. This is how you should write. This is how you should speak. This is how you should express yourself. This is how you sound professional. This is how you present yourself professionally. This is how you are proper, this is how you should look. And it's not exactly to say that that was like this horrible negative thing, but it definitely, as I started to travel more and meet more people and see more lived experiences, like, it's just not applicable for everybody, you know? And like in my area, that was probably right? What we know is polite or like respectful, things like that can be very different culturally depending on where you are or what family you're entering into or the environment, you know? And so like, yeah, it's good to learn about those different areas and where you are, and kind of showing as much respect and understanding for the area that you're in, but it doesn't mean that one is superior to the other. And that's a very hard thing, I think, for us to unpack and to realize, especially when I grew up in a kind of middle class, white, predominant community that was, I had a very good education, I had very good access to things, and I was kind of taught like, this is how you show, this is how you present yourself, this is how you should be, because if you do something different, it's not very acceptable. And I can open that up in a whole other conversation when it comes to personal presentation and identity and all those things. But if we focus just specifically on speaking, I was absolutely taught how to sound the best, I would say. And I think that our societies still feel that way. I know that people still feel that way because I started teaching English lessons, back in 2016. I was teaching Spanish before that, basic Spanish, back in 2014. But like in 2016, I started to teach more English lessons. And especially recently in the last couple of years, I've heard a lot of experiences from people that were criticized for their pronunciation, for their accent, for the way that they spoke, for the way that they kind of interacted, even though they may have been the best person for the job or the best person to speak on a particular topic because of their lived life experiences. They were still not really welcomed to the table, as we would say, because of some sort of judgment from the way that they communicate. And that is one of the most frustrating things for me to process, because the more that you get outside of your bubble, the more people that you talk to, the more connections that you make, at least to me, the more that you realize, like, we are all incredible human beings who have their own lived life experiences, their own stories to tell, their own expertise, their own tiny little nerdy things that they love to talk about. And like, even if someone has an accent that is different than yours, they still may know 10 million times more than you on a topic, but maybe their English isn't as strong, but they can have the full conversation in Spanish, or they could have the full conversation in any other language. I was thinking like Mandarin, for example, because I knew a lot of kids in school at university, because I went to university in Kansas, but I had a lot of extra exchange students, international students, and I had a lot of friends from various parts of India, various parts of Sri Lanka. I knew a couple of kids throughout China, and where else? Oh my gosh, a million places, like Brazil, Latin America, lots of different places, and they all were so smart and unique, and they brought their own stories, but they, maybe depending on who they were speaking with, were not given the full opportunity to express themselves because of their accent, or because someone didn't understand what they were saying and they didn't take the time to understand what they were saying. And that blew my mind, because the people that I've been able to interact with, or the people that I was able to interact with in university in particular, they were so smart, and they spoke multiple languages. Like, they spoke 3 or 4, and like English was just another part of it. And even though it was an accent that I needed to adjust to, but I've kind of always loved like accents in general in English, and so it was a little easier for me. But like, I'm always mind blown by people that are like, I don't understand what, and like they come at it from a place of superiority. It's not, I'm so sorry, can you, that word, can you say it one more time? I didn't quite understand it, right? I think there's ways that we're able to make sure that we're being understood, and that we're being, that we're able to communicate with one another. But doing it from a place of like, I don't get it. What? Sorry. And I know that there are those interactions. I've seen those interactions, right? You can even hear my voice shifting like when I get frustrated. It's something that I think is mind-blowing to me, that so many people that probably look like me, that come from my area, have been kind of ignorant in a way towards people that have had beautiful, colorful, vast life stories, or maybe really hard ones to get to where they are. And we still have a place of privilege that we don't give them the space to hear their voices. And I guess unpacking that, right, we start with something as small as like choir opened my eyes. Every lived experience of mine through how lucky I was to interact with exchange students from other countries, from high school all the way through college, from being in choir and singing different languages, from participating in different language classes. I only really studied Spanish, but I always loved the idea of learning another. And this is only talking about my experiences through college, right? Through university. I think that my mind was very much opened to the possibility that everyone's life experiences are different. But I didn't really get it. I didn't really realize how people were still feeling so judged until later on. And I met my husband. He is Brazilian, but we were living in Spain when we met. And I think from the moment that I met him, I started to see kind of both sides of those lived experiences. Because like I can connect with people. I had friends and discussions, and I heard stories, and I always knew how wonderful people were. But like dating someone from a completely different country, from a completely different life experience, frankly from a completely different skin tone, and living in Europe, I started to see kind of maybe the harder side of things. And I'd always kind of noticed stuff, but I don't think I truly valued how I still carried some of those messages. Like, I wanted to speak proper Spanish. I didn't really mind in English if other people spoke in different accents, and I loved it. I think it was really lovely. Like, oh, it's so cool you learned English. Like, let's talk, right? I always loved helping people understand things and kind of connecting, right? I was fine in English. It was no big deal. But in Spanish, I held myself to a standard of an accent and speaking perfectly and making sure that the verbs were just right. And I didn't do it all the time. I made mistakes, and I was willing to make those mistakes. But it really did depend on the people I was around. And my husband and I would speak in Spanish most of the time. He would speak some Portuguese, and I would speak Spanish. And then as we kept dating, we learned more and more from each other, and we used Spanish for at least, the first 2 years of our relationship were really Spanish. So I think like I started to see how he was perceived using Spanish and how I was received using Spanish, and some of the judgment that comes from like Spain Spanish and then other countries' Spanish. And I'd grown up hearing a lot of Mexican Spanish, but I'd heard Mexican accent Spanish. I had heard Guatemalan Spanish. I really, really loved listening to Spanish accents within the Dominican Republic, Cuba, Puerto Rico. I'd heard a ton of different accents, and they were all so interesting to me. And I'd always kind of studied those through YouTube videos, and through other interactions with people from various Spanish-speaking countries. And I thought they were all so cool, but like I still learned Spanish, and because I had that accent and because I looked the way that I did, sometimes people would say some stuff about accents that were a little bit judgmental, and I didn't understand why. But because I was kind of I was kind of accepted into that bubble, I started to hear these things and I didn't know what to do. Like I didn't know why people felt that way. I was like, well, but accents are so cool, you know, like accents are cool and they tell a story and they show, you know, that your mom is from one country but your dad is from another, or your parent, right? Whoever these people are in your life that influenced your accent and the way that you communicate, it tells a story. And I felt that was so beautiful, and I was still hearing these people judging others for how they sounded. And I was like, oh goodness, like what, why would we do that? And I realized that I was thinking that, but I wasn't really doing that as much within my speech. Like I was making sure that I was sounding very Spanish. And now I think my accent, I think it varies depending on who I'm around. That's probably my ADHD. Like my accent imitation and wanting to camouflage. I don't do it on purpose, but my accent will vary, even if it's in Spanish or if it's in English. In Portuguese, I think I am a little bit crazy, and that's a whole other story, right? Of how my Portuguese accent kind of evolved. But I started to see kind of the more judgmental side of accent perception, and then I started teaching lessons to various people from different parts of the world, and it always came back to my European students didn't always have really bad stories about judgment about their English. They maybe had a negative experience, maybe they didn't have as much ability to communicate, but a lot of the time, like in Europe in particular, English is a business language. It's a way of communicating with multiple people that English is maybe the second or third language. And so when you're not a native speaker, you can kind of communicate. And I would imagine in the UK, there are more negative experiences. Throughout my Instagram kind of career, more people have talked about that if they learned English and they went to the UK, maybe they received some more negative experiences. But like in generalized Europe, I didn't hear as many. But like in the US, there are so many incredible people from throughout Latin America, throughout Central, South America, that have had negative experiences in the US. And it makes me so sad that in our education system, we're not really taught to appreciate variety linguistically. We're told that America is a melting pot and it's a beautiful place of culture, and that's like, it's true when it comes to like food, I would say. And I'm not even gonna unpack like the social pieces of that, like we can have that another discussion. But I'm saying like from like the way that we were taught, that like the pretty picture, right? The pretty picture was, I grew up in an area that had a lot of different foods and a lot of different people, and you could find lots of cool things, but like they all had to speak English. And they all had to speak English in a really, really good way, because if they didn't, they would be treated differently, or they wouldn't get the job, or they would be accepted within certain careers, but not in more professional ones. And that is something that I have always been aware of, but I didn't really get it until I started working with people that have gone through these experiences, and through having my Instagram, I've been able to receive so many beautiful messages from so many beautiful people from all over, thanking me for holding space for them and for teaching in a kind way and not judging people for the way that they sound. And it makes me so happy that I'm able to provide that to people, but it also makes me so very sad that so many educators and so many bosses and so many businesses and so many places of power have made people feel less than because they don't sound exactly like the people around them. I think that that's something that will kind of become a bit of a purpose for me, to make sure that people feel seen throughout their language learning journey. Whether you learn Spanish, whether you learn Portuguese, whether you learn English, whether you learn anything else, right? I just speak from those three because they're the ones that I know, they're the lived experiences that I have. But like, you are learning a language, you're learning something new, and like, if you do it as an adult, like, that's even more mind-blowing. I started learning Portuguese when I was how old was I? Oh my god. Okay, I'm 30 now. Yeah, I'm 30. It's crazy. I'm 30, and I started, I think, when I was like 25 or 26. So I was like a grown adult, and I had to learn Portuguese. And the way that I learned it was so different than when I learned Spanish when I was 12. And I think because of my life experiences, because of learning Galician as well, that was very helpful for me to learn Portuguese. But like, my lived experience, I've always been received so kindly within my language journey, and I am very, very lucky in that, I would say. I've always obviously had some negative experiences. I've had some judgments. I've had people treat me like, I've had that. But I would imagine that I've had it a lot less than others who maybe don't look like me, who come from a different country. But I would say in the United States in particular, like, I'm seen as this awesome, like, wow, you speak 3 languages. No, you're so incredible. And I sit here and I go, oh yeah, like, thank you so much. And I'm so glad that I've really committed to that. But there are so many people in the United States that speak 2 or 3 languages, but they're not valued like I am, because I'm a native speaker of English who learned other languages. And so that's like, oh, wow, so incredible. But if you learn English as a second language, sometimes that's like, oh, expected of you. If you come from a country that only speaks Spanish or only speaks Portuguese or only speaks whatever language, you are expected to learn English, and you are expected to learn it perfectly. And that is so incredibly unfair. And I would love to, in my future, have some conversations with people that feel that way, and to help to spread the message that, like, learning languages should be a standard for everybody. I don't care how much you learn. I don't expect you to become fluent. I don't expect you to be perfect in any of it, because language is not perfect. Language is evolving and changing and is something beautiful. But being appreciative of language variety, and it's like listening to different types of music. Like, it's all music. It's all connection. It's just some sounds and some styles of music are different than others, and some accents are different than others. And I hope that if you are in a situation where you think that your accent is the best, it can be from pride, from love, from an appreciation, a deep, that deep root feeling, right? Beautiful, incredible. I love that for you. But I would ask you to not hold the people around you to that standard. If it comes to holding others back from opportunity, if you love your accent. Like, I like my accent in English. I think a lot of people seem to enjoy it. I'm able to communicate, and my accent literally changes all the time when I'm around family. Like, my sister and I use accents all the time, like a ton of different ones, and like maybe one day I'll show you a few, but they're silly. They're just silly. They're just a fun way to communicate. But like, we understand each other. And so if I like my accent, but I don't expect everyone to sound just like me, to be deserving of opportunity, to be deserving of respect, to be deserving of anything really. Like, you are a human being who is smart and intelligent, and if you have learned English as a second language, you already are really, really talented. Like, English is weird. It's doable, it's learnable, and like in my course, if you speak Portuguese, like, it's learnable, I promise. But like, it's weird, and Spanish is weird, and Portuguese is weird. Like, all languages are weird, especially when they come from a completely different place than your native language. If the structure is different, if the bones are different, you have to relearn how you understand time. You have to relearn how you understand verbs, how you understand vocabulary, how you understand expressions, how your brain just kind of goes crazy. But you become, I would say, a much more open and compassionate human being after you have to go through that. And we should all be valued for multiple language speaking. I don't care which language you learned first. And so there's my little tangent. I'm gonna try to not go over. This is like all 30 plus minutes, but I know you guys have kind of expressed an interest in kind of hearing some thoughts. And so the whole point of me wanting to do these types of videos and connect with people is because I think I have some lived experiences that I would love to share, and to try to open up a conversation. And so just to kind of sum up, I think that backtracking, right? Choir is something that enabled me to open that door to musicality, to the beauty of language, to the beauty of connecting through music, through intonation, through storytelling. And from choir, I fell in love with Spanish, and Spanish kind of changed the way that I think about language, about time, about people, about judgment, about privilege. And then I went to learn another language because of love, and I learned from a native speaker. I learned from my husband. I learned Portuguese, and I started to see the world the way that he sees the world as well. And so, if anything, learning languages has opened up my life to something so much more colorful and so much more beautiful than I would have ever imagined if I had just spoken English and stayed where I was. So if you're ever given the opportunity, even if you're not able to travel or speak with someone who speaks another language, like, take the opportunity to expand the world around you. And that stands true for people that speak Portuguese as well, that live in Brazil, because I get messages from people telling me that my Brazilian Portuguese accent is too hard, or learn this different one is better. And so it exists within all languages, right? I've heard it in native speakers of English that say, no, this is the right way to speak. I've heard it in Spain, no, this is the right way to speak, and it's regional. And the same thing in Brazil, no, this is how you speak. And so, like, we've all created these discussions, even within our own languages, of this is the right one because it's mine, and this is what's right, this is what is worth privilege, this is what is worth opportunity. And I would ask you to kind of explore that judgment that you're carrying, or that belief that you have, because I know that even if it is in a deep part of you, look at why you think that you are better than the other person. Or maybe you're on the other side of it. Maybe you're always the one who's being told that you're not good enough. Maybe it's both sides, right? I'm talking about the position of privilege, and then maybe the position of lack of privilege, right? If you have been told that your accent's not that good, or if you've been told that your speaking isn't good enough, if you've been told that you should not have a place at this table, I'm so sorry that you've had to go through that, because you do deserve to be at the table. If you know what you're talking about, if you know what's up, if you know that you're good for whatever that opportunity is, I'm sorry you had to go through that. And if you're in a place of privilege and you know that there's someone there that maybe needs a little help, reach out. Use your privilege, your ability to bring more people to these spaces, and to bring a bit more compassion and a bit more perspective to those areas, because it's all music, it's all connection, it's all it's all lived experience, and we're all human beings who just want to be understood and to be given opportunity to make our lives better. And so there's my really, really big jump from just choir is cool to work on being kind and compassionate, and reminding yourself that there is no perfect accent, there's no superior accent. We have been taught that. That is a learned belief, that if you go outside of your bubble, if you go out into the world around you, you will see that there are many beautiful, kind, incredible, colorful storytellers and educators and advocates that speak all different languages and have all different accents, and are just as valid as you, as all of us. And I hope that this was a bit of a good experience for you. If you want me to talk about something else, or if you have a comment, an experience you want to share, I would love for people to fill comments here with their stories, and we can further connect and to learn about other lived experiences, because not just mine is important, yours is too. So please feel welcome to comment here and come and hang out with us and be a part of this community that I hope we're forming. But thank you so much for being here. I hope that you continue to lead with curiosity and with kindness, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Make sure that you drink a little bit of water, and I think I want to finish today with a big deep breath, because I've been speaking in this really low, calm voice, and I want to take a deep breath. Ready? Okay, ready? Okay, you can do it. Have a lovely day, and hopefully I will see you very soon. Links in bio if you want to do stuff with me. Bye.